I've skipped ahead to 7.4 exercise 3, once again skipping over the fill in the blank exercises. As always, I recommend that you do in fact work through all of those problems. It is really good practice, but I've skipped ahead here to the real problems, the problems that you'll see on the test, same sort of problems that is. Of course, these aren't the exact problems, but the same nature of problem. So I'm just going to tackle two problems in this video, problems 10 and 23 respectively, starting here with problem number 10. So in problem number 10, just in copying down the problem, a couple of things jump out at me immediately. The first thing that I notice is that premise 1 is two horseshoes joined by a dot. Two horseshoes joined by a dot, this is one of the necessary conditions to pull off constructive dilemma. So I'm thinking to myself, might be a prime candidate for CD. The second thing that jumps out to me immediately is that premise number 2, this is the textbook case of De Morgan's. So that's in the back of my head. I can, if I need to, do De Morgan's. Finally, let's take a look at the conclusion. This too is a textbook case of De Morgan's. So I'll start there, as I've done many times before, just for the purposes of clarifying what exactly it is that I'm after. That becomes not B or not F. Not B or not F. We've got a B here in 1, we've got a B, or we've got an F rather in 1 as well. So I know I'm going to have to do, quite obviously, something with 1. So let's start by making the obvious move here. The thing that really jumps out is two De Morgan's. So let's see what that gets us. That would get us distribute and flip, not G or not N. So what can I do with line number 3? Well, as noted earlier, this sounds like De Morgan's, or it sounds like constructive dilemma rather. We've already done the De Morgan's, obviously. It sounds like constructive dilemma. We've got two horseshoes joined by a dot. We've got a part of each of those horseshoes here joined by a wedge. But there are some key differences here. It's not exactly matching up with what we need to pull off constructive dilemma. We've got some tildes here in line number 3, and no tildes up here in line number 1. Further, our wedge statement needs to be the antecedent to each horseshoe, and currently it's the consequent of each horseshoe. So what can we do to line number 1 to first of all get tildes into the picture, so it aligns here with line number 3, and further to get the G out front as well as the N out front, so we could pull off that constructive dilemma. That really is the key to unraveling this problem. Not that it's necessarily easy to see, you certainly do have to devote a considerable amount of thought before you really can even begin to unravel these problems. They're not easy problems. But the trick here is to align things perfectly so we can pull off that constructive dilemma. The trick is doing transposition to both of the conjuncts of line number 1. Transposition to the first conjunct and also transposition to the second conjunct. So I'll do this simultaneously. Technically it should be 2 steps, but save a little time here. Long story short, we're doing line 1 transposition. So transposition, general rule of thumb, reverse and negate. Get that down, no problems with transposition. Reverse and negate. So the G needs to come out front, reordering here the first conjunct, and the B second, and also negate. Throw in some tildes there. Now let's do the same procedure to the second conjunct, reverse and negate. We want the N out front and the F to come second, and also to throw in the tildes. The dot, let me squeeze in the dot there, is going to remain in the same position. So that's transposition to the first conjunct and to the second conjunct, reverse and negate. And what was the purpose of doing that? Well, now having done transposition to line number 1, we've set up 3 and 4 constructive dilemma, just as we originally suspected in examining the setup of the problem. So 3 and 4 constructive dilemma, 2 horseshoes joined by a dot, antecedent of each in line 3 joined by a wedge. And that then allows us to get out the consequent of each joined by a wedge. Not B or not F, De Morgan's, and we're done. Suck out that tilde, flip the operator from a wedge to a dot, and now our line 6, just a couple of easy steps, not a lengthy problem, a tricky problem, but not a long problem. Our line 6 matches up perfectly with the conclusion we're asked to derive. So that was the key, doing transposition to line number 1 to set up that constructive dilemma. So on now to 23. I've skipped over quite a large number of problems, but on to number 23. Number 23, we're asked to derive a triple bar. So immediately you can know that you need to finish this problem off with material equivalence. The only question here that we have is which option here are we going to pick in pulling off that material equivalence. Do we want two horseshoes joined by a dot or two dots joined by a wedge? So I'm just going to take stock of the options here that I have at my disposal. I'll either need A horseshoe K and K horseshoe A, or my only other possibility, given that I have to do material equivalence, I'll need A and K, or not A and not K. It's got to be one of those two. I just need to figure out which one I'm going to be able to construct. So let's take a look at what we're given and think about which of these two options is most likely. Right away, we can see that we've got A and K, and we also have not A and not K. So it looks like, given the information that I have at my disposal, I'm going to opt in favor of that second option, A and K, or not A and not K. But how am I going to get that by itself? Well, the two parts that I need here, the A and K, and the not A and not K, they both occur as the consequent of a horseshoe statement, and we need them joined by a wedge. Consequent of two horseshoes joined by a wedge, aha! This sounds a lot like constructive dilemma. But of course I need to set it up. I'm not there yet. To do constructive dilemma, I've seen this many times before, it ought to be routine. We need two horseshoes joined by a dot, which we don't have. So this turns out to be a complex case of constructive dilemma, but to begin the procedure, we need to do 1 and 2 conjunction. 1 and 2 conjunction, and then we'll have our two horseshoes joined by a dot. F horseshoe A and K, and G horseshoe not A and not K. Of course, putting in the brackets, this is what makes it a complex case of constructive dilemma, to clearly identify that dot as the main logical operator. Now, in line 4, two horseshoes joined by a dot. Line 3, the antecedent of each joined by a wedge. F, antecedent, G, antecedent, F wedge G. 3 and 4, I can pull off my constructive dilemma, which will give me the consequent of each joined by a wedge. A and K, or not A and not K. Putting in parentheses, clearly identifying the wedge as the main operator, and that's the second option here, second possibility for finishing up with material equivalence. So that's the remaining step here. 5 equiv. Turn line 5 into a triple bar, A triple bar K. This too, a fairly short problem, but not exactly an easy one.